Aaron Rodgers is holding the Giants hostage, and it's driving me insane. Welcome back to the Empire State Sports Report. Today, we're talking all things Giants because it's free agency week, and it's been a crazy one, let me tell you. We're going to get to the quarterbacks, but first, I want to go through some of the other signings that the Giants have made this week that I didn't cover off on in the earlier podcast episode. So this one will be a bit shorter, but I will say with some of the signings that they made, I'm on board with most of them. I would say really like that they're bolstering up the offensive line. I think we have obviously talked until we're blue in the face about the offensive line needing depth, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that some of the moves that they made there are great. And look, they're doing the same thing on the defensive line. They have brought in a defensive end, a defensive tackle. I think they've actually brought in 2 defensive tackles. And then, of course, they brought in a cornerback and the safety. So I'm happy that they are building up places where they so desperately needed help. What I will say is that I hope that doesn't prevent them from also drafting a guard and a defensive tackle in April. Honestly, I don't think it will, especially because they have more draft picks this year than they did last year. But last year, they were the only team in the NFL who did not draft an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. And I hope that this year it's different for the sake of all of us. So let's start with the fact that they re-signed wide receiver Amir Smith-Marsette. I think we probably all agree that that was a great move. He's one of the few people that was going to become a free agent that I was hoping the Giants would re-sign. Number one, mostly, so it just gives us some peace of mind that whoever is going to return the kickoff and punt returns, number one, they're actually going to hold on to the ball. And number two, maybe they're going to give us a chance to actually get good field position. Amir Smith-Marsette last year had 2 kick returns for touchdowns, one of them, which was 100 yards. One of them didn't count because, surprise, there was a flag on the Giants. Why wouldn't there be? But anyway, I like he's got good speed. He's got good hands. He's mostly used as a special teamer anyway. And I think this was a good signing, mostly because it gives me some relief that I'm not going to see Eric Gray back there, which again, something else that a lot of us have been screaming until we're blue in the face about is that Eric Gray is a good running back. You know what he's not good at? Kickoff and punt returns. Just don't force it. Okay, it's enough. So anyway, signing hopefully Amir Smith-Marsette is going to mean that he's going to be the starter. I don't know what's happening with Gunnar. I believe that he was going to be a free agent too, and he obviously missed the whole season due to injury. So I would say that Smith-Marsette is going to be the guy this year, and I am totally on board with that. Next up, the Giants agreed to terms with former Seahawks offensive lineman Stone Forsythe. He was drafted by the Seahawks. He's been with them ever since. I believe he was like a 6th-round draft pick. So not an amazing talent by any means. But what I do like about 2 of the signings that they made, James Hudson III and Stone Forsythe, they are both tackles. They are not tackles they're not guards that the Giants are going to force to tackle or vice versa. They are 2 players who have experience playing tackle in the NFL, and they are coming in to battle it out for the swing tackle option if, God forbid, Andrew Thomas goes down. And I know a lot of us hate on Joe Schoen, and I think a lot of us have good reasons to when it's backed up with facts, okay? But what I will say about Joe Schoen is that I think he has finally learned his lesson that you need to go into the season with an actual swing tackle. That's not Joshua Zudu or Evan Neal because they're clearly not tackles. So I think he's learning from some of his mistakes, and I will give him credit for that. And I love that he brought in 2 of them. Now, they are not the best swing tackles in the league. They're not Tyree Phillips. They're not amazing, but the fact that he signed 2 offensive tackles just makes me feel like he's learning from his mistakes, and he's bringing in guys who actually have tackle experience to be a swing tackle. So I like it. Doesn't mean they're going to make the roster. Doesn't mean they're going to battle out whoever it is going to be for the swing tackle option. Doesn't mean that they're not going to draft a tackle. It just means that there's finally going to be some options there. And I think there's going to be some depth, which, like I said, I know we're all on board with. So like I said, I'm fine with that signing. Speaking of offensive line, they also brought back Aaron Stinney, which again, on board with this one. And they also brought back Greg Van Roten. So the things that I like about these 2 signings, what I like about all 4 of them is that they're focusing on the offensive line and making it a priority, which is obviously a necessity. But on top of that, they are bringing in multiple players at each position, which proves to me that there's going to be some sort of competition, which is really important. And they also have said, according to Jordan Renan, that they are moving Evan Neal back to guard. They already did it with Joshua Zudo. It took them till week 18, but they did it. So I think that we're finally going to have some competition at the offensive line, which is really important. I think, and I hope that Carmen Brasillo is finally going to have some talent that he can work with and hopefully build these guys up to be serviceable. What I really like about bringing back Aaron Stinney and Greg Van Roten is the fact that both of those guys have played snaps for the Giants and they have done pretty good at it. What I also like is they are both versatile. So they both have played guard and they both have played center. And with John Michael Schmitz being the only center only player on the team, at least you've got two options who can be backups. If God forbid, knock on wood, hopefully he doesn't, but John Michael Schmitz get injured, at least you have a backup plan there. The last thing that I really, really like about the Greg Van Roten signing is that for the first time in, I'm not joking, probably 5 or more years, we are going to have the same starting offensive line from last year to this year. There is continuity, guys. And listen, Greg Van Roten is not the best offensive lineman in the league, okay? But he did pretty well for the Giants last year. He wasn't a mess. He was serviceable. And again, he's going to have the same people with him. So I love that. So the offensive line from left to right is going to be Andrew Thomas, John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, Greg Van Roten. Why do they all have multiple names? And then Jermaine Illuminor. So we've got the same offensive line that we had last year. And Jermaine Illuminor, my God, I love this guy. He is on Twitter firing back at everyone because all of the analysts and all the media people are talking so much shit on the Giants offensive line. And I just love that he is standing up for himself and the rest of the offensive linemen because he is right. The Giants were serviceable and the offensive line was fine when it was those 5 starting guys. When Andrew Thomas went down, that's when all hell broke loose. So again, Joe Schoen bringing in 2 tackles. Again, not the best. Bring in Tyree Phillips too. Let's amp up the competition here. But I like that there's some continuity there. If you're one of those 5 players, you got to feel like, all right, I'm playing with these guys again. We've got Carmen Brasillo. We've got another year in Brian Daboll's system. Like we're going to get it together for the quarterback. And I really, really appreciate that because we all know the offensive line has been a clusterfuck and there has been so many variations over the years that there has been no continuity. So I like it. And now when you look at that offensive line, it's all veterans. We're not going to have to go into week 1 and be like, oh my God, what is Evan Neal going to do today? Is whoever the quarterback is going to get sacked 65 times because Evan Neal can't stand up straight. That alone to me is worth every penny that they gave Van Roten and Stinney. Like I'll have like the tiniest bit of peace on the season opener that maybe the offensive line is going to block well. And like Jermaine said, I mean, they were serviceable. It was the quarterback who really held them back those first few weeks. But when they won 2 games, it was in the first 5 weeks of the season. Week 1 was a shit show. Let's forget about that for a second. But weeks 2 to 6, was it, when they beat the Browns and the Seahawks? That was when they were playing their best football. That was when those 5 players were starting on the offensive line. So if I can give you the tiniest bit, the tiniest sliver of hope going into the draft and this season, that's it. That's it right there. And I love it. So I can't wait to hear more from Jermaine Illuminor as he just keeps going back at these people. I just love every minute of it. So a couple other signings that they made that we haven't talked about yet is they brought in a linebacker, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. He actually went undrafted, was on the Cardinals practice squad for a little bit before he went to the Niners, and then he's been with the Niners ever since. Fun fact about him, when he first went to the Niners, he actually was a defensive back for the first 2 years, and then they decided that linebacker was a better position for him. He's also played a lot on special teams. So like the Chris Board signing, to me, it signals that Isaiah Simmons is probably not coming back because he was a guy that played a lot on special teams, which I don't think anyone is going to be surprised by. And same thing with Carter Coughlin. He's probably going to be a guy that's not coming back to the Giants at this point. So now you've got 2 linebackers who play well on special teams. I also think a part of the reason why they made special teams a priority is the fact that the kickoff rules keep changing. And anyone who watched the NFL last year can see how quickly that if one tackle is missed, you can essentially be screwed. Not only are you worried about giving up a touchdown, but you're worried about getting them into your territory within seconds. So I think focusing on special teams and bringing in 2 linebackers who really excel at that position is a really great idea. And you've got Amir Smith-Marsette. So I like the signings, guys. I know they're not sexy. I know they're not that exciting, but when you look at 3 sides of the ball and all 3 sides on what this Giants team desperately needed help with, these are good signings. They are not the most exciting. They are not the most flashy, but in theory, because we need to see them actually play on the Giants and play together, they're good signings and they're what this team needs. So like I said, I have given Joe Schoen a lot of shit, but I will give him credit that I think these are good signings. Now, Let's see what happens with the quarterback. Might change my mind on that, but so far so good in those situations. So they also agreed to terms with veteran defensive lineman Jeremiah Ledbetter. So again, they have now brought in 3 defensive linemen, defensive ends during free agency alone. So like I said, I really don't think that's going to prevent them from going after one in the draft, especially knowing that this draft is so heavy on defensive linemen, which is great news. The more the merrier. Look, they drafted DJ Davidson, they drafted Jordan Riley, they brought in Elijah Chapman, who are all okay, maybe good football players, but none of them are great. And with Azeez Ojulari likely leaving, Isaiah Simmons is gone. You lost Jason Pinnock. You have to bring in players to replace all of those guys. And I think that so far they've done a decent job of that. Now, I know a lot of us love guys like Milton Williams and some of the other free agents that were coming available, like Travarius Ward at those different positions, but I do like what they've done so far, and I would love it if they go after a good defensive tackle in the draft. So I think that'll help bolster up this offense and defense a little bit. Here's a little bit about Jeremiah Ledbetter for those of you who are interested. He was also a 6th-round pick, this time in 2017. He's 30 years old, played 53 games with 5 starts for the Lions, Bucks, and Jags. Also was on practice squads of the Ravens and Cardinals. He's 6'3", 299 in his career. He's registered 3.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 12 quarterback hits, 1 fumble recovery, 1 pass defense, and 80 total tackles, 36 of which are solo. So, like I said, depth pieces across the board. A lot of these signings are not costing an arm and a leg. And the last that I saw, I checked yesterday, the Giants had around $20 million still, or they had $30 million still available, which means probably about 20 of that is effective cap space. So that is obviously going to go into whatever quarterback they sign and whatever other free agency moves they make. I don't think they're done yet, obviously, because they don't have a quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make a couple other smaller signings like this to just bring in competition and just try to bolster up some of the positions that now have become holes from guys who have left. So, like I said, I really don't hate any of them. Let's talk about the quarterback position because I might actually hate it if they bring in Aaron Rodgers. So this is the supposed latest on Aaron Rodgers. And I have seen so many things that I literally don't believe any of it, but I will just share it with you guys and you can tell me what you believe and what you think is true. So I saw a tweet today that said that Aaron Rodgers is most likely going to the Vikings. And then I saw another tweet from Pro Football Talk that said that Aaron Rodgers doesn't even have a contract offer from the Vikings, that he's still deciding between the Giants and the Steelers, and that Russ Wilson is deciding between the Giants and the Steelers, but that he might not even, the Giants and the Browns, but that he might not even play football at all and might retire. I doubt it. So this is where I'm at with the quarterback position. I think Aaron Rodgers needs to get his head out of his ass, and it's ridiculous at this point. It's been well over a week since he knew that he was going to be a free agent, since he knew that he was having conversations with the Giants and the Steelers, and since he knew that he was going to have the opportunity to make up his mind about these contracts. So it's getting ridiculous, okay? You are not planning your 15-year future. We're talking about 1 or 2 years, okay? If you're going to retire and call it a day. If you want to win more football games, then go to the Steelers. It's literally that simple. If you have an offer from the Vikings, then you're going between the Vikings and the Steelers. Do you want to deal with DK Metcalf and George Pickens, who the amount of videos I have seen of those two being maniacs on the football field? I can't wait to watch the Steelers this year. I got to tell you, I think it's going to be incredible. But I mean, or if you're Aaron Rodgers, you're like, I got 2 amazing talents. Of course I want to go to the Steelers. Figure it out. It really should not be that difficult. This man is 41 years old. He's not making a life-changing decision. He's $400 million in the bank. And this is exactly why I don't want him on our football team. And I want the Giants to have some dignity and say, we are not desperate and we are not going to sit around and wait every single day and bring in other quarterbacks and do what we're supposed to be doing while we wait for Aaron Rodgers. Because if Russ Wilson goes and signs with the Browns and Joe Flacco decides he's going to retire, then what the fuck are you going to do for a veteran quarterback? I guess then it's going to be Jameis Winston, but stop. Then it's going to be your 4th choice. How bad does that look? John Mara cares so much about optics. Let me give you some advice, okay? You know what looks bad is you sitting around twiddling your thumbs waiting for a 41-year-old, mostly washed up quarterback to decide whether or not he's going to come to your franchise for 1 fucking year. Are you trying to make us be the Jets? It's bad enough we have to share a stadium with them. We have to do this whole little brother bullshit with them. We're trying to take their old quarterback. It's enough. It's enough. Okay. Sit him down or give him a call because he seems like he's on the beach somewhere, God knows where, and say, if you don't have a decision by 4 o'clock on Saturday, we are done and moving on because we have other options. It is so asinine. And he's literally holding people hostage. It's enough. It's enough. It's been over a week. Okay. It is just so ridiculous. And it just proves to me that all the shit that I talked about this man, I was fucking right. He is not humble. He only cares about himself. He's not a team player. I thought my dog just threw up. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. Okay. And I think that he's going to be a problem. And if this doesn't show anyone that he is a problem child, we are agree to disagree on that, because I don't care that he was a 4-time MVP. You know what? He hasn't been in 4 years, an MVP or even a nice person. So I am done. I am done with him. And if he signs with the Giants, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll tell you what, I am not going to be very happy. And I'm just going to end it on that. And I'm just going to sit around and wait like the rest of you and find out what the hell is happening. But it's Saturday afternoon at this point. I don't know. Everyone's like, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to take his time. Like, he's on his own timeline. No one knows what he's going to decide. Hold him accountable. He's a grown man. Okay. Why is it so hard to say to him, you have a deadline? It's a job. This is a job for him at the end of the day. Okay. And you know what? People who have jobs also have deadlines. And guess what? If you don't hit a deadline, you get in trouble or you get fired. So Aaron Rodgers, they need to buckle up, John Mara and Joe Shane, and give the man a deadline. Okay. Man up and do it, because we are now, you want to complain that fans are bitching and moaning about the way that this organization is run. Newsflash, it gets worse by the day when you sit around and twiddle your thumbs and wait for Aaron Rodgers to make a decision to win you 6 games this year. It is so frustrating. That is the end of my Aaron Rodgers rant. I am done. We better have a decision, hopefully by Sunday, if not by Monday, because we have to move on. Okay. We're getting close to the draft. It's getting exciting. I'm going to Vegas next week. Like, let me go to Vegas and enjoy my trip and not have to worry about Aaron's stupid ass Rodgers making a decision. Okay, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. As soon as any information hits, I will go live and we can talk all about it and let all of our feelings out, whether they're good or bad. But thank you for listening. Please subscribe, share with a friend, and I will be back next week with another update.